Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. That's what they say. You know what? I've heard people when they talk about it, they say, you know, that Andy Nelson, he is a well-lozenged guy.
They do say that.
They do. I've seen that. I've seen that. They've actually been prepping that for your headstone.
I was going to say.
Andy Nelson, he was well-lozenged.
I hope so. I hope that really does.
Happy Thanksgiving, Andrew.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you.
I don't mean to date the show at all. Date her? I hardly knew her.
Oh.
What? But
and you're so U.S. centric also. Thanks for welcoming the rest of the world to
I know.
the show.
Thank you, world. Especially because because our cold open here is all about our international participation. How excited we are about our international listeners, and but the reason I'm saying is because Happy Thanksgiving. Because in the U.S. it is now Thanksgiving, and as you probably know, even on international news, what Thanksgiving is we're giving thanks for all of the shopping that we're going to do on Friday. This country has become nonsense. Are you not just? I mean, I know you're a Black Friday guy, right?
I have been a Black Friday guy in the past. Now I tend to be more a Black Friday internet shopper.
Yes,
a little easier. We still go out because it's a lot. It is nice to go out without the kids and just get all of the Christmas shopping done for them.
Yeah, you just leave them with a Santa at like Macy's.
Yes,
just leave the kids for a couple hours.
Put them in line. You wait here, kids.
If if it gets to you, just smile real pretty. Ask for a truck.
Ho ho ho!
I saw Catching Fire today.
Oh, hopefully you didn't catch fire, because that would be a bad experience.
I'm not sure that one worked.
No.
Here's the thing. You what? Please tell me.
You saw Catching Fire,
yeah,
and I saw Frozen. So it's just very interesting spectrum that we were covering there.
That is very interesting. I like it. I did see Catching Fire, and I know you weren't a huge fan of the first one, right? Of the Hunger Games.
No.
Yeah. I thought this one was better than the Hunger Games.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. This was and I would not say it was just a little better. I thought it was substantially better.
Yeah.
And I thought everybody did a great job. I particularly, that Jennifer Lawrence, I think she's done, you know what I think it is? I know her better now, and it makes me like her performance in this film better after seeing her in so many other films between the last and this one. I don't think I knew her very well when I first saw Hunger Games.
And winning awards. And...
Yeah. And particularly, Silver Linings Playbook. And
yeah.
So it's just she's I think, quite a talent. So it was a beautiful spectacle. I did see it in IMAX, and true to form, that switch, when she is raised up into the arena and the screen transitions from...
regular
to IMAX is stunning. If you're aware of it, it is a stunning transition. They play that really well, and it is a great moment in the film when that happens. It
doesn't compare to like The Dark Knight, where it's jumping back and forth throughout the film.
I'm on the record. I didn't like that. That made me crazy. And this was not. This was a really elegant transition, and the entire balance of the film is in IMAX. There's no switching back and forth, and they really picked the right segment too. Obviously, this is the big arena games, and it's beautiful. It was a beautiful production. So really, I think it's worth checking out.
We were actually going to see it this past weekend
on Thanksgiving.
Our babysitter got sick, so we couldn't go.
It's always
no this past weekend.
Okay,
not Thanksgiving weekend.
Your babysitter is preemptively sick.
Yes.
You're saying. Anyway, so I quite liked it, and I it was fine. I took my daughter. We had a great time. It was a father-daughter date. So
good.
That kind of movie.
Well, I took my daughter and my son and my wife to Frozen, and we had a wonderful time.
I caught your post on Facebook. You liked this Frozen.
Yeah, it was. I'm a big Disney fan. I particularly their animated films, and this was the first film that they had put out in forever that I really didn't see. I saw the teaser trailer, and that's it. I didn't see any marketing of any kind for this other than that, and so I really had no idea what to expect with this film. And I went in kind of blind and had so much fun with it. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoy the way they shaped the story, and the music was great. The just everything about it really worked well for me. So I had a great time with it. I think it's a great addition to the animated classics Disney library.
Fantastic. Wasn't there some controversy about this movie? Some comment about how they draw female characters in this movie? Did you read about that?
I didn't read about that, but they did. I did notice how large their eyes were. It almost seemed more abnormally large than like anime eyes. Like they were really big eyes. They were like notably
they are
like
not
alien.
missing a thing.
They must be related to the aliens that came down and stopped by Area 51 before they went up to the snowy country.
Oh, genetics. Let's tell the people where we're from, should we?
Yeah.
I'm from Colorado Springs. Originally grew up. Was born in Oklahoma, but I didn't spend a long time there.
A little too far back there, buddy.
Oh, I thought this was a biopic. This is the Next Reel podcast. My name is Pete Wright, and that over there is Andy Nelson. And we spoil movies, old movies. We'd like you to come listen to us talk about movies. We appreciate your participation everywhere that there can be participation. And there are a lot of places you can participate. If you want to just check out the movies, head over to our Flickchart list. Just search for The Next Reel on Flickchart or on Letterboxd. And on Letterboxd, you can even see the movies that are coming up. So check out our watch list over on Letterboxd, and you can do that. We invite you to subscribe to the show. Probably the best way to listen to the show, subscribe to the show either in iTunes or Stitcher Smart Radio or your podcatcher of choice. Wherever fine podcasts are served, you can find The Next Reel. And don't miss an episode. We appreciate you hanging out and listening. If you want to participate, lots of ways to do that, too. Head over to facebook.com/The Next Reel. You can join the conversation there. Or for you Google Plus user, google.com/+The Next Reel podcast. google.com/+ The Next Reel podcast. And we're starting to hang out over there. It's still pretty new, but we do invite you to do that. I like it so much better than Facebook. I wish more people were like actively using it because it's just good. We're also on Twitter, obviously, twitter.com/The Next Reel. Okay, now we just have a little bit of follow-up. First of all, on Google Plus, we have a comment about somebody from a new friend of the show, Stephen, who writes in a comment on our Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. And I should say the comment on the Desolation of Smaug was, and this was from the Next Reel account, each day we get closer to 48 frames of awesome per second. Here's a little playground to explore. And it's a Middle-earth, The Hobbit kind of Chrome experiment thing. And the comment from Steven is, really? Some more speedy-up action and fake-looking CGI? Really surprised, since you all seem to have a problem with the first film. And I would like to go on the record as saying, you are right. And herein lies the rub, that we, all of us involved in The Next Reel, who are posting in multiple places as The Next Reel, are often not in agreement on things. And he who holds the pen makes the public opinion. And in this case, some of us were a little bit jarred. Some of us, meaning me, I think, were pretty jarred by 48 frames per second. But I am going into it with an open mind. But you are right, Stephen. You are absolutely right. I did have a problem with that first film.
I think it was a lot bit jarred.
It was very jarred.
I will never see 48 frames per second again. No, ma'am.
I'm going to do it. I am totally going to do it. And but I would say I guarantee you that the blog whisperer, the good and kindly Steve Sarmento, is going to be seeing it 48 frames per second. He'll take every extra frame you can get.
That's right.
Give him. You don't want your frames? Give them to Steve. He'll take them.
That's right.
And so that's the story on that. But Stephen, thank you so much for listening and listening to this. I believe you are a new listener, and you're very kind to write in and join the conversation.
Yes, and he also kindly posted over on iTunes, which is fantastic. Although it's the UK iTunes, and I had he sent a note on Facebook, and I found out about this comment that he posted there, and thanks to you figured out how to how to find these posts on iTunes and other countries, but we now know how. So he writes, it's not bad, it's really, really good, which is great.
That's a heck of an opener. It's not bad.
Just discovered this, and it's now my favorite podcast. Both hosts are witty and pleasant to listen to. Thank you very much. The films they cover are all pretty great. I'm slowly working my way through their back catalog and loving it. I'll be sad when I catch up.
So will we.
Just start all over again. Back to square one. Yes,
Raiders. So thank you very much, Stephen. Do we have any other comments we need to follow up on there?
I'm
any
checking,
more on your list?
But before I check, I also do want to say that on top of that, and actually, no, there are no other comments too.
Now, one other way to follow us is over on Instagram. You can catch up with Andy's fantastic hashtag Guess the Movie, hashtag Pony Prize. Andy, tell the people give the people the update.
Yeah, we, over on Instagram, every day we're posting an image from a movie, and over the course of the week, we'll end up posting 7-ish images from a particular movie, and you have the opportunity to guess what movie that is. Just follow us over on Instagram.com/thenextreel. And if you know what it is, be the first one to say what it is, and you will be entered to win our Pony Prize, which we're compiling a pile of gifts. And one day far in the future, we will send those to the winner. Hopefully it won't be that far in the future.
One day.
But
it's coming.
This week, it took a while. I really had to start putting up some what I think are pretty obvious images, i.e. actors' faces, iconic actors' faces, to get people to figure out what this movie was.
You got pretty close up.
Yes, I did. Well, it is a Sergio Leone movie. It's pretty easy to get these incredible close-ups. And, unfortunately, the joy of Instagram is it's, a square. It's a 1x1 frame as opposed to a 2.35 to 1 giant widescreen image. So, yeah, I have to cut quite a bit.
This last image of Henry Fonda.
I know. It looks like I peeled the skin off his face.
Yeah, right?
Laid it up on the lens. It just doesn't look that appealing. But yes, Robot Gremlin did finally get it, and also coincidentally, that is our new friend Stephen Smart. So
fantastic!
So way to go, Stephen! Congratulations, you are entered to win our Pony Prize.
Oh, that's very good, very good. I can't wait to see what they win.
I can't either.
And with that, let's talk trailers. My trailer is I would not have expected me to choose this trailer this week, and probably not for the reason you think I am. This is one of those things where you see a trailer for something and it's just you can't stop looking at it. It's like a train wreck of a thing. I'm talking about Sabotage, the 2014 film from writer-director David Ayer. David Ayer, David Ayer from such action tentpoles as Training Day, Fast and the Furious, Harsh Crimes, End of Watch in 2012. Guy's been around. He knows how to do guns and cars. Really knows how to do guns and cars. He could make a fun kind of crime action romp. It's just that's what he does. And this one stars a great cast of people who look great as thugs and villains, right? Terrence Howard, Joe Manganiello, Josh Holloway, Sam Worthington. What is going on with Sam Worthington in this movie? I
didn't even recognize him.
Right? And totally out of context, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's what makes this trailer the high jump, low ceiling experience that you're going to have with this. It's like everything looks great in terms of a big testosterone heavy, intense crime, DEA crime thing. And then the governor comes in and I fall right out of it. It's like, he does not look like he fits in these movies anymore. He doesn't fit. So I have a real problem with it. It comes out April 11, 2014. I'm choosing this only to mark the calendar. This is going to be a terrible movie, and I think it's going to be in spite of people doing good work in a testosterone intense heavy action film.
I gotta say, I was really impressed with the fact that everyone in the trailer, including Olivia Williams and however you say her name, Marie-Josée
Enos, yeah,
are like completely just kicking butt in this thing.
I know.
It made me so excited to see them just going crazy in here, and yeah, I am very curious to see this.
Tell me you didn't get that same feeling. Tell me I'm not alone here. He just is a little, I don't want to say past his prime. I think that, I don't know, it seemed a little weird to me. I don't know. I'm curious to see it though. If it's going to be something that feels like it works, or does it feel like, somebody who's should have been retired? Here's the thing. Like, it's hard not to compare Schwarzenegger to Stallone, right?
Right.
And I think Stallone's latest efforts, I haven't seen a lot of them, right? I haven't seen a lot of his most recent stuff, but I have greater faith in them because he always had more of, he was always a better actor.
Well, I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, he was, okay, seriously, if you're going to stack rank Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
I have a hard time watching Stallone. I would much rather watch Schwarzenegger. I'm sorry.
Well, we're starting off on the wrong foot, you and me. Seriously.
Oh, man.
All right. That's where I stand on this. He plays John Breacher Wharton in Sabotage 2014. Mark your calendars, April 11, 2014, Schwarzenegger.
There you go.
It's just too bad because this is the rest of these, I mean, there's a lot of butt kicking in this movie, and it looks like good, gritty butt kicking.
It does.
All right. Enough out of me. What's yours?
I'll see it.
I'm really surprised. I was actually surprised at your trailer.
I know. I was too. Well, and in the spirit of my trailer, I think the reason I picked this trailer is because of the commercial that was released earlier in the week of Jean-Claude Van Damme doing the splits between the two semis. And that because of that, I was inspired to pick this trailer, which is Welcome to the Jungle, which looks really funny. I mean, you have a completely over-the-top Jean-Claude Van Damme as this, a guy who runs those tropical island company retreats to kind of bring the company closer together.
Like an extreme ropes course.
Extreme ropes course, and everything goes wrong in it, and it just looks really funny. And I just the scene when he kind of just does his little karate move on the guy, I mean, I just couldn't stop laughing. So that's why I picked it. And in honor of that, I actually am, just so you know, doing the splits between the two office chairs for this entire episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I like to be a giver. I don't want to just pick this and not put in the effort.
Give back, right?
That's right.
Did we talk about JCVD?
Yeah. Long ago.
Did we do a show on it?
No, we didn't talk about it, but you've mentioned it in the past.
Because you've seen it, right?
I have not. It's one of those ones that kind of...
That's the conversation? I've already been mad at you about this?
Yes, you have.
JCVD.
And I said, I'll go watch it.
And you never did because you don't care about things I say.
I don't.
This was Mabrouk El-Mekri, writer and director of JCVD 2008. This was Jean-Claude Van Damme playing a fictionalized version of himself, and it was terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better now that I know how you feel about me. All right.
Well, the interesting thing about this one is it's Rob Meltzer is coming out. It's really kind of looks like one of his first big projects. I mean, he did A Jewish Christmas Story back in '97, and then a couple like TV movies and a short called I Am Stamos, and this. Yeah, the I Am Stamos, a dark comedy about a character actor whose wish to be a leading man comes true when he magically begins to photograph as John Stamos, provoking the unholy wrath of John Stamos.
That's fantastic.
What a fun idea for a little short film. So anyway, it looks fun. I think that it would be a fun watch. I don't know if it's something I would pay for in the theater, but it does look fun to watch. So that's Welcome to the Jungle, limited release in the U.S. February 7th.
We're sort of both doing the geriatric action film, geriatric action comedy in your case.
Yeah, I know. They're both kind of making their little comebacks.
That may have to be a series next year.
It's all thanks to the Expendables. Yeah,
That's
Expendables in red.
Keep elderly action stars working.
That's right.
Shall we talk about this movie tonight?
Let's. I know you're thrilled to death.
I'm not. I don't know if you noticed I've been stalling. Like anything I can do not to talk about this movie.
And that's the show, everybody. Have a good night.
We're continuing our series on foreign language films with the oddly foreign The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, 2007, directed by Julian Schnabel, written by Ronald Harwood, and based on the book, the original, the memoir by Jean-Dominique Bauby. And all right, go ahead. I can't. I mean, I don't even know what to. I can't even talk about.
I love this movie so much, and I find it so interesting that you find it like on the level of Schindler's List. I can watch this once because it's great, but after that, I never want to see it again. I totally don't feel that when I watch this movie. This movie to me is such an inspiration and an uplifting film, and it gives me so much, just joy about life and everything else. I find this an amazing experience, and every time I've watched it, it really just shines through as this story that is celebrating life in just coming through from one of the most horrible situations a person can be put into. And I think I first saw this film. I missed it in the theaters, and I think I ended up watching it. It got nominated for a few Oscars, and it was right around the time when I believe it was when the Oscars were being announced, and Sean Young, the ever so just laughable Sean Young, mocked Julian Schnabel after he was nominated for Best Director, and she's just like, "Who's that?" Do you remember that? Do you remember like the
I had totally forgotten that.
And she just got the wrath of everybody, and I think essentially signed her own contract to officially leave Hollywood and not be welcomed back after that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, that was this film. Good old Julian, who was nominated for Best Director for this film, although the film wasn't. It's one of those weird films because it's foreign language, but because one of the companies producing it was an American company, it's not eligible for Best Foreign Language Film. And because it's foreign language, people don't really want to put it in as Best Picture because it's a little, it happens, but it's not that frequent. And
yeah. Well, I mean, we'll talk more about the kind of the genetic history of this film. It's kind of interesting how it came to be, and I think this film really capitalizes one of my great fears in just life, and that is this condition known as locked-in syndrome, and that is just this sense of horrible claustrophobia that I get, this nightmarish sort of claustrophobia. This is a deeply personal section of the show. It's therapy, and that is a great fear of mine, and so this film is all about that, right?
Yeah.
And I think you are absolutely right. And on watching the film again, I put it off to the very last minute. I just finished watching the film like 20 minutes ago, watching it again, I see what you mean, and I think I was able on this, and this is only the second time that I've watched it all the way through, obviously. I was able to kind of take a step back and see the overall structure of the film and the just the way each act kind of progresses, both visually and dramatically, structurally, in terms of how we get to know Mr. Bauby, which is really quite magical. And I think you're right that there is kind of an uplifting sense once you get past the just the horror of the first third of the film. for me. I think it is a gorgeous story. I think it is a beautiful story and a story of such incredible commitment. Like just that sort of at its purest, sort of most raw human commitment to one another that I find deeply rewarding, kind of in that middle section of the film when you see where so many of these characters could just give up, and yet they keep coming back, and they keep coming back to help and to rebuild this person who can't rebuild on his own. So I think it is. I think it's deeply magical. I think it is. The cinematography of this really is a standout. The way it was shot, the sort of the imposed limitations on the screen, I think really make this film shine. The way it sort of challenges you to be in this space, as long as it challenges you to be in this space, is risky and rewarding in the same vein. And I deeply love it. But I can't watch it that much.
Yeah.
So
No, I hear you. It does. It pushes the audience to the limits of testing their comfortableness with being in this situation, because it does put you first person. You are, essentially, as you're watching this film, you are Jean-Do, this character, watching as he is locked in, and as he is basically just laying there. He can only move his eye. He can communicate with his eye by blinking, and he can look around, and that's the only part of his body that's really functioning. Everything else just doesn't work. He has to, he has to be fed with tubes. He has to breathe with a tube. Just everything is all machinery, because he just is completely paralyzed except for his eye. And the brilliance of putting the camera into his head, and you're hearing his thoughts, and you're seeing everything he sees, and the people that you're looking at don't hear any of these thoughts. I mean, it was really an ingenious way to make a film. And the fact that you don't even step out of that first-person POV for like the first 15 to 20 minutes, I mean, that really does put you to the test of getting a sense as to what this claustrophobia is like, wanting to say something and nobody can hear you. It's frightening. It certainly can feed on those fears of being stuck in a place. I can see why you would be, terrified of this. It's nightmarish, being stuck in a situation where you are trying to get something across to people and no one can hear you.
It is, and I'm not sure where to start on this, because I think all these elements. One of the things that I find so compelling about this film is the way the dramatic elements and the visual elements tie together so perfectly, right? I mean, so much of where, as you say, the camera is placed and where we are as represented by the lens is directly related to this character's awakening. And I find that I found that sort of the most compelling lesson of this film this time around. That what we learn through flashback, particularly through the second and third acts of the film, what we learn about Jean-Dominique Bauby is that he was a player. He was the former editor or publisher of French Elle magazine, and we learn early on that he'd had a stroke. They sort of give away the punchline in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you wake up.
You wake up and you're
literally
in his head. Yeah.
The movie starts with him waking up.
Right. He's
like,
already locked in. Yeah.
He has no idea. Like he doesn't even remember. And that's what I thought was interesting, is it waits until the end of the film to reveal the actual moment, because he doesn't remember that.
Yeah. And so our experience starts out very claustrophobic. We start out with him in his head, right? And as the film moves forward through the second and third act, we move outside of his body. And we meet him in the second act in particular, after that first sort of 25 minutes, we meet him, his physical self, right? We start in his head, his cerebral self, and we meet his physical self when we see kind of what his body looks like as he's being wheeled down down the hallway, and he sees the first reflections of himself. And at that point, we, as our spatial awareness begins to grow, his psychological awareness begins to grow, and we start seeing him put together these pieces of what mattered in his old life through flashback by what ends up mattering to him in his current present, based on the people who come to him and who come to be a part of his life and the stories that he surrounds himself by. And I found that his journey of broadening awareness, even as his world became so small, I found that really a powerful sort of psycho-visual metaphor.
It works very effectively the way that it plays. I mean, I agree with you. It's a tricky story to adapt. I mean, I think you have to give. I mean, I haven't read the book. I don't know if you've read the book or not. I'm guessing not, considering your aversion to the story.
No, I bought the book and then burned it, just as a symbolic statement of my discomfort.
But my understanding is Ronald Harwood, when after Kathleen Kennedy, one of the producers, when she optioned it and asked Ronald Harwood, and I believe he was just coming off of his Oscar win for The Pianist, she asked him to adapt it, and he was looking at it, and he spent a while trying to figure out how to adapt this, and he tried a few different versions. He couldn't figure it out, and he was at a point where he was like ready to give her money back and say, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to adapt this. It's about a guy who's laying there. He cannot move. There's nothing about him that is mobile in any way. And then all of a sudden it struck him to go into that, the inside, and the way that you were able to play with imagination and memory. And as the film progresses, and you start seeing that blend of his real world, his imagined world, and his memory, because that's really the world that he can play in. And that paired with that personal connection that we have with all of these people in his life, as they come and address the camera as they're speaking to him, whether it's his, as he says, the mother of his children, or his dear friends, or just the nurses, the doctors, all these people, you get that incredibly intimate relationship that, I mean, it almost is uncomfortable a little bit. You feel, I don't know, for me, it heightens the sense of emotion in everything, because I feel so much more connected to everyone in those moments.
Well, and I absolutely agree. And what I find is so there's some wonderful humor and deep sadness in the way people connect with him in this space, and the discomfort with which people sort of approach this. How do you talk to somebody like this in this state? And it starts with his friend that they swapped the seats on the plane, and the friend was taken hostage in, what was it, Beirut?
Beirut, yeah. There's a awkward friendship.
Yeah, very awkward friendship. He swapped, do me a favor, swap out this seat so I can take your flight, and then the flight gets hijacked, and he ends up being, taken hostage. And so he comes and tells this story about how he was kept hostage to this guy who is now sort of hostage in his own body, right? And that doesn't stop. I think the first one is the doctor who sews his eyelids shut, right? Who's telling him this story about how he was on vacation, and
right.
And he's talking about how I don't remember the specific story all of a sudden, but it was essentially that same thing, how hard things are when, for him, and then we have how hard it is for the guy who was held hostage, and then it just sort of that narrative of discomfort. It really comes to a climax with Max von Sydow, who plays his father, calling to talk about how what an interesting parallel it is, using this as a way to avoid talking about this other sort of uncomfortable how uncomfortable it is being the father of somebody you can't really talk to, and being at the end of his own life. Like he is just such a phenomenal portrayal of this character. But he uses this, isn't it interesting how what a parallel path we're on? You're trapped inside your own body, and I can't leave my apartment. We're so similar. It's just there is such. And to the credit of Mathieu Amalric, there is such, you really read that grief in his eye as he's listening to his father over the phone tell the story. That you read that subtext so clearly.
It's one of the most beautiful scenes in the film, and it's so powerful. I mean, I got to give Matthew just so much credit because. I was thinking about this. I heard him talking about acting in this film, and he said, it's really hard acting when you cannot move a single muscle. I mean, he would basically have to lay there, and he would tense up his whole body, and he wouldn't move anything. And one eye had a patch over it, and then his lip was glued open a little bit, and he had a thing in his cheek and something in his nose, and he had a special contact in his good eye, his quote good eye, that made it look all bloodshot and everything. And then he would have to lay there and be completely still and not move anything except for his eye. And to act that way where you cannot do anything, I mean, not even a little twitch or anything, and be completely still and react the way he does to that phone call. I mean, it's amazing and powerful, and it does really show through. It really rings the emotion through that, this is, I could totally read all of the subtext going on in that conversation and just the emotion as his one eye is reacting to that phone call.
Absolutely.
It's powerful.
It's extremely powerful. And I think that, the intensity that he brings to that role, particularly as the frequency of flashbacks begins to, it really increases in this third act as you get to know more and more about Bauby and his life, and you start pairing the sort of the important elements again of his prior life with his closer to sort of end of life handling as he is locked in, and he reaches the end of his the end of the book process, the end of writing this book, and we should talk about that. This is the story, if we haven't made it clear, of him writing his memoir through eye blinks.
Yeah.
And
it's mind-boggling just hearing someone say that.
Mind-boggling. So this is the story of working with his speech language therapist, going through the French frequency alphabet and building each word letter by letter. And my understanding is it took roughly 200,000 blinks and about 2 minutes to build each word as he wrote his novel or his memoir through the hand of his translator, his interlocutor, and it is amazing to kind of wrap that up. He ends up dying 3 days after the book is published, and that sort of ends his journey. And it ends up being the intensity of what I was saying, the intensity that he brings to his end of life experience, as he is read to, by his loved ones and his new sort of deepest relationship, and as the scene just gets increasingly white as he passes, it's as beautiful and uncomfortable as I think the opening of the scene is. I mean, it's a very sort of cyclical path that he is on, and the sort of birth to death to birth cycle is very present in this film. It's beautiful.
And then it goes to the glaciers, which is really interesting. They come in partway through the film. You see all these amazing shots of just these weirdly very dirty glaciers falling into very dirty water. But it's just interesting the way the ice splits and falls in. And then at the end, it's all played in reverse, and you see these giant, blocks of ice like almost just leaping out of the water and attaching themselves to the glaciers and to the icebergs. And it's funny because Schnabel actually said he's unsure what the glaciers actually mean, but to him it felt like the key to the film. There's something about that being reconnected to things at the end that he felt really symbolized kind of, Jean Do's rebirth into the world. He's kind of escaped this diving bell that he was in. His butterfly was his imagination and his memory, and now through being able to write this book, he was able to kind of reconnect himself back into the world that he was so abruptly broken off from.
That's interesting. I'm sure deep down I probably thought of that, but I certainly didn't think of it when I was looking at it.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
That is funny. I'm laughing on the inside.
So we've talked about Mathieu Amalric. Wow, the other performances, his essentially his physical therapist, his SLP, his doctor, and his writer, his translator, right?
Yeah,
all wonderful performances.
Yeah, the mother of his children.
Right. Emmanuelle.
Emmanuelle Seigner, Roman Polanski's wife, who, for some reason, there's something about her that I find so beautiful in this film, and it's the same beauty that in the Ninth Gate that Roman Polanski directed back in '99. That terrified me. Like she played that so nicely, in that film, and her beauty as, I don't know, I can't remember. She's basically like the form of Satan walking the earth or something like that. Yeah, there is something so much scarier about her in that film, and in this film, I found that just so much more attractive, and I really like her in this film, and my heart totally goes out to her in this film. And the situation with her and the kids and him. Interestingly, as kind of a weird side note, the girlfriend, oddly, is that he left this, the mother of his children, who he never actually married, which I guess is why we call her that. She has a much bigger part in the film, and the girlfriend that he left her for is completely non-existent in the film, except for toward the end. We kind of see her in a flashback. But in reality, the mother of his children hardly ever came to visit. And it was the girlfriend that was the one who was always at the hospital and always sitting with him and was there, through his death. And I guess the reason that the script ended up getting kind of written this way and kind of swapped was because his story rights and everything after he died went to his children. And I don't fully understand the reasoning there, but it sounds like, I don't know, out of respect for the children or something like that, they kind of changed the story a little bit and made it so the mother was kind of the more the one connected to him still, and the girlfriend was just more non-existent.
Well, and there was that sort of just shattering sequence where the mother of his children is translating, is interpreting a conversation between Mr. Bauby and the girlfriend over the phone.
Yeah, and translating his blinks to say what he's saying.
Say what he's saying, and she is the girlfriend is over the phone trying to say, I love you and I miss you and I would be there, but I couldn't be there, again, in the context of the film. And the wife or the mother has to sit there and listen to this, and eventually she steps out of the room. But, I bring up that sequence because I think it captures what you're talking about, that sort of the gift of Emmanuelle Seigner of being sort of beautiful and shattered. Yeah, in a just an incredibly powerful fashion in that sequence in particular.
Oh, absolutely, and you can still see like there's jealousy in there, there's anger, and just all of that emotion. She plays so well.
Yeah.
But Oh yeah, but interestingly, the girlfriend actually, after I think a year after the movie came out, she ended up releasing her own book, kind of because there were quite a few people in Bauby's life who were kind of offended with the film, the way that they portrayed her. So she now has her own book. We can put a link to that in the show notes as well as his book, just in case people are interested. But it's called let's see, La Fausse Veuve. I don't know my French very well, but something like that. Which I guess is The False Widow. And so that is her version of this story. So I think it's only in French right now. I don't think it has had a translation. So if you speak French and read French and you're interested, we'll have a link in the show notes for that too.
The False Widow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I have to say my favorite of all the women in this is the nurse, Henrietta. Mm-hmm. Marie-Josée Croze, who I just totally fall in love with every time I watch this film. She's just had, like, the way she smiles and the way she speaks to him. I really love it.
Yeah, she's it's a pretty special relationship that I think they develop, and the way she sort of develops that protective kind of nature with him is and around him is pretty special.
Yeah.
She's just mesmerizing.
Yes.
Like the way, and I think this is another way. They just another sort of point on the cinematography, and we should just say this is Janusz Kaminski, who we've talked about before in some capacity. What was it? Come on, bring it back.
Well, you keep talking. I'll tell you in a minute.
All right. Because it was Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull was, I think, the first time we talked about it. It was, in any case, he's what I think is really powerful about this, the first act of the film and the way the camera is in his head. It puts such focus on, or I think it sets you at attention. Let's say that. I found myself sitting at attention for eyes, right? Yeah. Because you have to work to see somebody's face because they don't move the camera since, he can't move, right? You're in his head. He can't move his eyes. And so you are, people are moving in and out of frame as they're getting used to, moving in to look at his eyes. But that means when she moves in to say, "Can you see me?" she's kind of leaning down, her head's tilted down, her eyes are tilted up. It's that beauty shot, the focus on her eyeballs,
right.
And it's just one of those stunning images. And the same for any of these characters, but they really make a focus of capturing kind of that relationship. And there's some great humor around his inner voice, talking about what it's like to be surrounded by these women who keep leaning in and leaning over him, and he can't move. He can't do anything. And when the physical therapist is teaching him how to use his tongue, how to swallow, and she's doing this demonstration, this sort of in any other sort of non-physical therapies, circumstance would be this lusty tongue move,
right.
and he's having to watch this and completely trapped and can't move. It's a really sort of beautiful, sexy kind of torture.
It is.
So it's a great, and it adds a little bit of levity to what is otherwise a dark sequence.
Well, I think it speaks to Bauby's sense of humor, at least the way that it's portrayed in the film.
Right.
I think it acknowledged that he even though he was stuck in this situation, he still was able to laugh at things and laugh at his situation and laugh at just things that were going on around him.
Right.
So before we move on, I do want to, since you were talking specifically about the camera, two things that I wanted to bring up about that, because I do find it very fascinating the way that they shot this film. One, because of this first-person nature of it, I mean, it's essentially the cameraman lying there, and everybody is acting into the lens as if it is Jean-Do. And so they have no benefit of actually seeing an actor laying there. I guess on the camera they actually put a small little kind of model of just the center of his face, so they had something to reference as they were looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I mean, the character is a person who can't move, so it's not like they have to worry about reactions from this person. But they're essentially just acting with a camera lens, and so I find that even more powerful when I see these actors giving amazing performances. That when you think about it, it's really just them reacting or coming up with these emotional moments with a camera lens and a cameraman who's just laying there in the bed. And I find that really stunning. And then what they did is they had Matthew, he was actually there the whole time they were filming this. He was offset in a box with a little video assist monitor, basically watching what was being filmed. And Schnabel basically had him wired to record all of his audio. And then he just let Matthew say whatever he wanted to say, kind of just react to, I mean, there was some scripted stuff, but also ad-libbing whatever lines he felt, kind of came naturally to him. And the actors couldn't hear that, but it was just him speaking, because that's essentially what locked-in syndrome is. So he really, in a way, was acting as if he was in locked-in syndrome in a box offset where no one could hear him.
That's horrible.
I
It's
know.
That's your craft, people. That's why they are actors. That is beautiful.
I know, it's interesting. The other interesting thing is Janusz Kaminski and Schnabel decided for a lot of this, because of the way when your eyes are moving around and your eye kind of focuses on different things, they opted to use a tilt shift lens, which is kind of a special lens that allows you to focus on just a very particular part of the frame. And they would move it as they were filming, and so the focus is constantly shifting and moving from one thing to another, and the way that things move, and then as the camera is moving, it really reacts as if it's an actual eye kind of looking around. And just another element that they brought into the cinematography of this that I think really lent itself to creating a much more claustrophobic feel to the story.
That's absolutely true. Have you ever shot with a tilt shift lens?
I haven't. I'm curious to try it one of these days, but I've never gotten the opportunity.
They're great. They're a great tool, but mostly used for architectural photography. They're really designed for to realign planes.
Right.
And so to use a tilt shift lens in this capacity, it's got there are companies that make effectively tilt shift easy through, like Lens Baby is a great sort of adapter that you can add to, or lenses you can add to your camera to give these great sort of effects. But to end up using a tilt shift for these really claustrophobic sequences, or I should say for these really close-up sequences, adds to that sort of claustrophobia that I think is it's a really unique look. I would not have thought of that.
I think it speaks to the unique perspective that Schnabel brings to the filmmaking. I mean, he's an artist. He came in to this project as an artist first. I mean, he had done a couple other films before this. I think it was Basquiat and Before Night Falls were his two prior films, and all definitely seemed to have stood up to the critics, and people really found great art in these films. But he is an artist. He's a painter first, and that's where he kind of came into being. And I think he brings to it a lot of that avant-garde sensibility, that sense of letting the even in the camera moves, letting the emotion and intuition control things rather than logic all the time. In just all the decisions that are made, whether it's camera moves, whether it's the way an actor is portrayed, whether it's the way that he's cutting, and the way just using, letting Janusz go and use these in-camera superimpositions or whatever it is to help tell the story. It's almost like expressionist work, and I love that about the way this film feels when I watch it.
And yet, right, because it is absolutely approachable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
that is
like
a really
watching...
important distinction. Like this is, this is a challenging film, but it's challenging because of the approach to the subject matter.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we're watching a Stan Brakhage,
exactly,
Dog Star Man, or something that is much more challenging to watch, and you really have to be in the right space to watch it.
Right. No, and I can, I would suggest that it, as you say, it's Schnabel's natural sort of visual instinct that makes this such a unique picture. But it's approachable. It's not standoffish. It's not, you don't walk out of this thing saying, I have no idea what that meant.
Right.
It's just beautiful and difficult. It's a difficult story told in a really beautiful visual fashion.
Right. Absolutely.
So this film, I found this really interesting because it's another one where Max von Sydow is, we practically have a von Sydow series.
I know we should have.
It's another one with a bilingual cast. It was originally, it was obviously shot in France.
Shot on location the actual locations where things took place.
Right, though it was originally supposed to be produced by Universal Studios, American company, obviously. It was originally, it's just verified, originally Bauby was supposed to be played by Johnny Depp.
I believe that is the story, yeah.
That's
I love American films. I sometimes, there are times when there's a great American film made that takes place in another country where they don't speak English, but it's made in English. Mentioning Schindler's List earlier,
right?
It's an amazing film. This is a film. I don't know. I think you could have done it all in English, but I don't know. Watching the French version is like, why would they have ever thought of doing this in English? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly it. That was exactly my point. Like, why would this have ever gone that way? And so when Universal stepped out, likely the best outcome for this film was to return to its roots. Though what I found interesting was that that the intention, Schnabel's intention, and Schnabel is not a French director.
Right.
He's
right. He's from Brooklyn.
He's from Brooklyn, right? And apparently he learned a bunch of French to direct this film. But
well, and he is married to a French woman who played the physical therapist.
Right. A very good point. So he really, I think, brought an interesting sensibility to this film, but it is essentially a French movie directed by an American, written by a South African.
Right.
This is a global film if there ever was one, and I think but it ended up being produced by Pathé Canal and Kennedy Marshall, and France 3. Yeah, it ends up being probably best that Universal didn't get their big mitts into it.
Yeah, that whole thing, it's like one of those moments where it's like, I'm glad that things went the way it did. It obviously fell into all the right hands to get made. Yeah. I'm sure there could have been a French director and a French company who made this, and it would have been a great film also. But there's something about the artistry that Schnabel brought to the film that, I don't know. I think that sense of just the physicality of just all of the moments throughout the film, I just feel 100% connected to it every time I watch it. And I don't think anyone else would have been able to tell it the right way. I think this is the way it needed to be told, and I completely love it.
Do you listen to Studio Q?
I don't.
You must. With Gian Gomeshi?
Nope.
He's my favorite. It's on the afternoons NPR here from 2 to 3. And so Gian Gomeshi he's in Canada. He's up in, I think, Toronto. And he's an aspirational interviewer and talk radio up there, and has this global show. And he has this YouTube channel with all of these, like 1,600 of his hour-long interviews. Video interviews up on his YouTube channel, and a great one the reason I bring this up is a great one. You get 55 minutes with Gian Gomeshi and Julian Schnabel. And we'll put links to that in the show notes if you want to get to know director Schnabel a little bit better. This is a fantastic interview to watch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Schnabel's an interesting person to listen to. He's a very passionate person. He clearly is somebody who's connected to his emotions. He understands just the amazing stuff that can be done with art. And I think I have a very deep respect for him. He freaking painted one of my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers album covers.
Well, I did not know this. Which one did he do?
Of course, now that you say that, I can't remember the name of it, but it's there it is. It's the gosh, what is the name of the album?
Break it down.
I'll get back to you on that.
Oh, you're killing me. All right.
It doesn't have the album name on it. It just says Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can't remember the name of the album.
All right.
I know, terrible.
Loser.
I am. Big fat loser.
Maybe that was the name of the album. How'd this movie how'd it do? Did you get numbers on this one?
Well, luckily, because it is tied into an American company, I did get the numbers for this film. It did pretty well for itself. It was made back in 2007. It had a production budget about $14 million. Domestically, they only gave it $3 million for the prints and advertising, so not a lot of money to let people in the U.S. know about it. So total, I couldn't find anything internationally, but total I have is $17 million. And then, this thing made domestically only about $6 million. Internationally, it fared a lot better, almost $17 million domestically. So total, and once all the numbers are adjusted, it made about adjusted total gross $25 million, just over $25 million. So it made its money back. Still, it's in the black, and it's not one of our big money makers, but it's in there. It's number 72 on our list.
All right.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. What else do you have to add before we rank this thing?
Just a couple things. I wanted to run through the César Awards, the Oscars for France, the awards of the 33rd César Awards. This film was nominated for 7 of them, and it took home, it was nominated for Best Actor, Best Cinematography, Best Director, Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Sound, and Best Editing. It ended up winning for Best Actor, Mathieu Amalric, and it, let's see if it won for anything else. It did not win for cinematography or director or picture or writing or sound, but it did win for Best Editing, Juliette Welfling. That's something else. The editing of this film, the way that it is cutting back and forth, I think is stellar. In fact, even like the way that, when we're in the first person POV and we see the camera, it's like it's blinking, like we're seeing his eye blinks.
Right.
Sometimes those would be edited eye blinks where they would actually just put a quick little dissolve in, like a 2 or 3 frame dissolve. Sometimes it was the assistant cameraman with his 2 fingers just kind of doing a scissor motion in front of the camera. I mean, it's just amazing the sorts of techniques that they ended up using in this film. I love the creativity and the ingenuity that they did and just played with when they made this film. It's just fantastic. So
Very
that's
clever.
So best editing, I totally see why it would be winning for that. And it was nominated for 4 Oscars. I already mentioned best picture here, best director here, and then best adapted screenplay, best cinematography, and best editing. But it didn't win any, alas. And then the last thing I wanted to say,
we should just add really quickly though, it won a lot of other awards around the world. Like it won Best Director in the Technical Grand Prize at the 60th Cannes Film Festival.
Right.
It earned a lot of mojo around the world.
Yeah, it did receive. You're right. It got a lot of accolades all around the world, and it was on many people's top 10 lists of the year. Right. And rightfully so. I think this is one of the most artful films to come out of cinema in a while, and it's a great film. The last note that I had was the music in this film, aside from a lot of great songs in the film, and I think that's Schnabel just bringing great choices to the film, but Paul Cantillon did the music for the film. Beautiful music all through the film. The interesting thing about Cantillon is that he actually, something happened to him. He was like a violin prodigy as a child. And he actually played at, when he was 13 years old. He was just like this big child, prodigy. Something happened. He had a bicycle accident and left him in a coma. When he came out of the coma a month later, he had forgotten everything. He had to relearn all of his music and start all over again. And so he found a connection to this story, and so he contacted Schnabel's like, I really have to do this film. I feel this connection with him, and he told him his story, and Schnabel thought that it ended up feeling that it was going to work right for the film, and so I just found that really interesting, and I think the music does have this this kind of lushness to it, and it's almost like this classical sense that flows throughout the film. But I don't know, it's just this very melodic tone, and I don't know. I really like the music in this film.
I do too, and I think it works well with the soundtrack. The score works really well with the soundtrack, particularly the sequence I think is most powerful is that transition while he is having the stroke in the last 10 minutes of the film.
Oh yeah,
as he's in the car with his son, and he pulls over, and it's one of the key flashbacks in the film as we finish the story that we have been learning in just little bits, and the music there is just fantastic as it moves from the score into La Mer back into the score. Just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and all the ways. Like another moment that always strikes me is when they park him in his wheelchair in front of that beautiful statue of the princess, and I can't remember what her story is, but somehow tied to that building in history. And he kind of fantasizes that the princess kind of comes up behind him. She commands him to speak, and so he stands and he starts kissing her, and you get this beautiful swell of music, and it's this beautiful scene. And then all of a sudden it just cuts drastically to silence, back to him sitting in his chair because the nurse has come up to wheel him away.
Right.
He's stuck in this situation where he can't say no, not yet. He just has to go wherever they take him, and it's a great way to define that. You have this lush moment, and the music is swelling. Cut right to just dead silence as they pull him away. It's great the way all that plays out.
Let's rank it.
Yes, let's do it.
So back over to Flickchart, everybody. Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you can see where we stand on all these films that we've been talking about, and grab our top 10 list, top 100 list, see our bottom 10 list. You'll love that. Add that to your weekend watch list. And join us in the conversation. Make sure you like us over there, and or whatever the verb of Flickchart is. Flick us. Flick us at Flickchart. And
be my flick.
Be my. And you can join us in our ranking festivities.
Yes, here we go.
Let's do
the
it.
Diving Bell and the Butterfly, or Inside Man. Now, I'm curious how you're going to go throughout this, because I think the film, I think we both agree it's a masterful film. However, it's not something you've already said that you're going to ever really probably watch again.
I'm deeply torn on this, because usually we talk about it as if it's the film we're going to watch again, right?
Yeah.
That's how we've been doing this all these years, right? And I feel like that would be doing this film a disservice.
Well, and see, that's the interesting nature of Flickchart is sometimes it's like, I feel like I have to rank it because it's one I would watch more. And sometimes I feel like, well, I just can't do that because this is clearly the better film. I have to rank it higher than that at least.
Yeah. For example, in this one, I would rank
Diving Bell.
Diving Bell. Yeah.
Good. Phew. Okay. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, or The Bank Job. I likewise would have to go with the Diving Bell.
Yeah, Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
Or The Sting. Now,
Yeah. No. Now this
Now
one's
we're getting into
genuinely
classic
difficult. Yeah. Right.
yeah.
I'm going to say The Sting on this one.
I'm going to have to say The Sting too,
Yeah.
because I mean, come on, it's The Sting.
It's The Sting.
And then we've got The French Connection. It's like, oh, geez,
Seriously, that's the next one?
that's the next one.
French Connection.
It's got to be The French Connection.
Don't mess with Popeye.
This is a good one for you because I know, and it's two biographical stories: The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, or Moneyball.
Moneyball. Moneyball. Why is that even interesting? You know how I love Moneyball.
I know, I know you do. I would go Diving Bell on this one.
But how much would you go?
I would
Come
totally
on.
go Bell. I would 100% go. The artistry in the making of this film. I mean, Moneyball, don't get me wrong, is an amazingly powerful story. But it's, look at how the film was made. I mean, it's it is an effective film. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly is sheer artistry.
Agree to disagree. Let me see here. Because here's the thing. I'm with you. I get it. I get it. But I deeply, deeply love Moneyball, and I find the way that story comes together and the way the sort of subtlety with which Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill play their characters in bringing a baseball story that is approaching baseball in a way that no other film has achieved for me. I find that really terrific. So I'm looking at the flick chart. I'm trying to see what's going to come next. Because I want to know if I should give this. I should continue to fight. All right. I'm going to give it to you for art's sake. But just know that we've swapped a marker.
Oh, I know. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, or Being John Malkovich.
Oh, this is actually really hard. I'm interested in where you go with this.
This is hard. This is really hard because I think Being John Malkovich is equally just a unique piece of cinema. I think at the end of the day, I would still go Diving Bell.
Really?
Yeah, because of the feeling I have at the end of it. I just feel so uplifted at the end of Diving Bell, and because of the Max von Sydow phone conversation scene.
I mean, I definitely give you Diving Bell on this. I'm just deeply surprised that you didn't.
I know.
This is because Malkovich is kind of your thing.
I like those movies. What can I say? The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, or Prisoners?
Diving Bell and the Butterfly.
It's got to be Diving Bell. There you go. All right, there you go. Number 23, right below French Connection.
Wow.
That's a good spot. 23 out of 122.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That
is pretty good.
Okay, where do we go? We're still in our foreign films series. What? Oh,
By the Way.
Yeah?
The album is called By the Way.
Oh. Where do we go from here?
Next, we're heading on over to Germany, and we're going to watch Run, Lola, Run. Which
Lola Rent.
Lola Rent.
I do love this movie.
I do too. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm excited to watch it again.
This one's easier to watch for me. There's no eyelids being sewn shut. Not quite as claustrophobic. I'm very excited to watch this film. Excellent. So this will. This is the. Is this the apex, the pinnacle of our?
Lola will be, yes.
Yeah, Lola, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yes, it is. Although we've got a very hefty movie toward the end.
Yeah, talk about that running time.
That's right. He's a bit of a monster.
I started it already because I think it's going to take me a week to get through it. So, looking forward to that. Any other news for the people?
I don't think so. I think we're good. Yeah.
Let's be done with this thing.
All right, I can finally get off of these two chairs, man. I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Woo.
Totally Van Damned those chairs.
I did. But I held it.
You held it.
I'm a real
I didn't
man.
hear any cracking or ripping.
And I'm not talking like this.
I gotta go to bed. It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But you know, producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor.
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
Movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.